Hey guys, hello and welcome to another video of Power Automate today. So in today's video, we will be combining our Power Automate Dataverse and Power Apps, right? We will be seeing how can we make use of Dataverse to create a real life Power App, a working Power App. This is a real project. You can explore this project in your organization also. We will be making use of standard Dataverse table, right? We will be making use of work queue items and work queue tables in this app, and this will be a real project. So for this project I have simply created 5 queues. If you are working in an organization, you already have queues, you already have data in those queues. I have added sample data. So if you see here, I have created 5 queues, right? And each of queue has some items. Some are queued, processing, on hold, and so on. We have, if you see, right? So I'll just simply walk you through one of the queue. So if you see, right, so we have these items. Some are processed, some are business, some are generic, and some are IT exception. One thing to notice here is I have updated processing nodes for all the items, right? This is a best practice, that when you are updating your queues, it is always good to update your processing nodes so that the end user would know what has happened to their item, right? So for this, I do not need to see the status. I will be knowing it through the processing node. So this item is completed, right? This has user not available, means some exception is there, and so this is also some exception is there. So this is how you should update the processing nodes. So basic requirement for this app is that we have this some work queue and it has some items. So I'll quickly walk you through the tables which I am going to make use of, right? So right, so these are the two tables. These are the standard table. If I open this work queue table, so I'll be making an app totally on this table. Right now, if you see here, I have some, not some, all the data into the work queue. I have all the data from the work queue in this table only, right? This table has some lookup columns from work queue table. Now if you see, it has all these processing start time and managed and created, modified by, owning, processing results, right? So it has all the columns, and I'll be making use of these dataverse table to create a working app, right? So I'll just quickly go on to my interface of the Power App. So this is the interface of my Power App, right? So I'll just go to create and create a blank app and blank canvas app. I'll name this as queue tracker, right? And click create. So this, what this video explain is, I'll be taking this from a 0 level and will take this to advanced level. So this video is for people who want to start with Power App, right? This video is for the beginners that who want to start Power Apps, and this can also be seen by the people who knows Power App and do a real time project on the Power Apps, right? So here I'll start. So I'll not be explaining much on the properties side. I'll be explaining only the important things that I'll be taking care of, right? So if you see, the app name is Queue Tracker, obviously, and on the app we have some properties. I'll explain quickly the important properties. So start screen is basically where your app will start. So I have only one screen right now. I'll rename this to home screen, right? Now if I go to my app, and I also have one property called on start. Basically, if I talk about the start screen, as the name suggests, what would be the start screen of my app? So I'll just simply go and type home screen, right? So this is the use of start screen. And then on the property of on start is basically if you want to initialize some variables, right? So let's say that, so to initialize a global variable, we have a fixed format, which is keyword, which is set now variable. What should be my variable name? I'll just name it, let's say that I want to, on a start of the screen or on a start of my app, I want to capture the user which is who is logged in, right? So I'll just simply type user email, comma, now value, we have an expression called user and dot email, right? So now my variable is set. Whenever this app starts, right, whenever this app starts, it will have stored the value of logged in user email into this id or into this variable name, right? So on start is this. If I want to do multiple things, then I can do it with a semicolon. Let's say that I want to pick a color, so I'll just write var color, right, and then color dot let's say aqua, and I'll close. So if you see, now we have multiple. Now if you want to set more, and then you can type and then semicolon like this, right? So I'll just remove it and I'll quickly go to my home screen. Now home screen also has some you can say properties, right? We will be talking about these properties in a bit, but for now so the Power App follows a hierarchy. That app, inside app we can have multiple screens, and under these screens we can have multiple items. By when I say items, I'm saying the controls. So in any of the application you interact, we have some basic elements. For example, we have a text box, right? Text box means where you want to, so if you are searching something, that is a text box, right? We have buttons where you click, right? We have some data also. So these are the 3 4 basic things that you always have in an app, right? So text, then we have a data, and then we have a button. So these are the 3 basic things of any app you use, right? So here also we have all these basic things. Now the first and foremost thing here is the containers, right? So if I search and go with the container, we have 3 kinds of containers: horizontal, vertical, and a simple container. So if I go with the horizontal container, okay, so horizontal container is basically it lines up the items side by side. So what I mean by it lines the item side by side is, I'll just insert a button, right? If you see button, now see, it is moving like this. See, it is moving like this. I cannot move this with a drag and drop action. Now I'll just insert a vertical container, right? So this is my vertical container, and inside this I will add a button, right? And if you see here, it is moving in columns, while as in horizontal it is moving in the row sides, right? And we also have, we can also change the properties from here. Right now we also have one more container, which is a simple container, this one. And I'll just move this container here, and I'll just insert a button inside my this container, and see, I will be able to move this button anywhere with related to any position, but this button can only be moved and aligned in the container, right, like this, with the controls. So these are the 3 containers. I hope you get what container is. Container basically aligns your controls in a single box, right? So this is how you can use container. I'll just delete this, right? And I'll show you already made container here. Basically we can so this is already made container. If you see, this is one container, this is another container, right? Here you, it is already mentioned, and this is another container. Okay, so container can have different controls inside it. So I'll just add a container here, right? And like this, right? So this is my container. Now talking about the properties of these container, I'll name this side container, and I will just adjust it height. Oh, this scope alert is not going. Okay, now I'll add another container, right? And I'll call this a header container, which will, I'll call this a header container, although there is already a item or there's already a property with header container, we'll be seeing what header container is. This I'll call this as a main container. Okay, so call this as main container, right? So now if you see, we have three containers, and now container has some properties. So I'll quickly go through the main properties, although you can learn it by doing yourself. Now if you see this, there's a property of drop shadow. If I call it, see, the shadow is being there. Now extra bold. Now see, the shadow is bold, and similarly for this also we have the shadows, and similarly for this we have the shadow, right? Now if I want to set the coordinates dynamically, now let's say that I want to put this container at the top. Now this top line is for y, consider this line for y, and consider this line as x, this one, right? This is x, and this is the 0 0 coordinate. So for this, if I want to put this at the top, now if you see here, it is already 0, and if I put this 0 and click, see, it is moved at the top. Right now I want to set the width of this container dynamic. Now it is 1366. This is not dynamic. I can do is, see, it has been, see, see. Now I want to set this as dynamic. Now what I can do is I can just simply use parent dot width. See, it has been set it to parent. Now in any if in any of the device it works, if the height of this home screen is decreased, then automatically the height of this header container will also get decreased, right? Similarly for the height, if I go into the height of this container, where is the height? Okay, I'll search for height. See, this is the height. So height is set for 106 if I decrease. So I'll just do it parent dot height. So parent dot height is the full height, but I do not want as the full height. I'll just simply write a formula as 0.0.2. Right now, if you see, it is the 20% of this whole screen, or I can say that I decrease it by 80%. Now it is the, so if the whole height is 10, it will be the only the eighth part of this whole height. So this is how you can set the width and your height dynamically. Right now I'll just remove this container, and I'll just keep this container, and I'll quickly set the width. Similarly, I have set it for the parent. Now parent dot width, right? And then I'll quickly go to x. X is 531, so I'll do it 0, and it will be automatically being placed here, right? And if I see the y, now y is not dynamic. Right now, let's say that I want to put this container like this, but dynamically. Now how do I achieve this? So what I'll do is I'll simply write a math. This is simple math, right? So what I'll do is I'll say that I'll, what is the name of this is header containers. So what I'll do is header container, right? This dot height, right? The moment I say dot height, it will be automatically set here, because the height of this header container is this, and I have set the y coordinates as the height. And now if I say that plus 10, it will be moved a bit, plus 100, it will be moved a bit, sorry, plus 100, it will be moved a bit, right? So this is how I can set. Right? And now see, this is, there is a difference, only the y coordinate is set. Now I want to set the height of this container. Now if I go to height, I'll just simply say parent dot height, right, divided by 2, or I'll say, or I'll simply say this, that the height should be the parent dot height and minus this, so it will be automatically set it like this. So this is how we can set the height and width of any Power App dynamically. I'll just, now there are some more properties. I'll quickly show you these. If you want to make it not visible, you can check this. If you want to fill the colors, let's say that I want to fill color in my container this, and in this container I want to fill some different color, right? You can fill up the colors like this. Now let's say that you want to make it a bit circular. Currently the border radius is not visible, it is set to 4 but is not visible. If I set it to 20, you see it is a bit circular, it is still not very visible. I'll do it 100. See, if you see now the radius is being cut a bit. Now this, it will be visible more in this container where this one is small. See, so this is the border radius, right? You can also set up the border. Currently it is 0, so it is not visible. If I set it to 20, it will be more visible. So this is the border, right? So these are controls. You can check it on your own. I'll be moving forward to the gallery items and the more controls we can have in the Power App. So talking about the gallery basically, you can consider gallery as a data for a Power App, right? This is the layman definition, that gallery holds the data for your app, right? So I'll be using the gallery control here. So basically we also have gallery of different types: vertical, horizontal, and the flexible gallery. I would recommend you to practice this on your own to learn it more quickly, to grasp the this components more quickly. I'll just take a vertical gallery, right? uh, See, it is asking for some data source. I'll just click cancel, and so if I click save and if I click preview, okay, so in the vertical gallery you will be able to move in the vertical, and in the horizontal you can actually move horizontally, right? So this is the only difference. Not, it does not matter which gallery you use. It basically depends upon you what kind of gallery you want to use, or what kind of gallery will be much better to your Power App. So I have just removed the gallery, and what I'll do is I'll click my main container, and here I'll insert my gallery, right? So I'll insert a blank vertical gallery, right? So, and I'll name this Q items gallery, right? So it is very important to rename your controls, because sometimes what happen is you will be able not be able to identify which control is for what, right? Are when you have almost created your app, it is very difficult to identify which control is what, right? So in this gallery, what I'll do is we first have to add a data source, right? Now I want to show the queue data. So what I'll do is either I can select it from here, or I can select it from here, but wherever I want, I can just choose a data source. So it is showing me the dataverse, right? It has more controls. I can show it from the Excel also, right? So we have Excel, and then we have a lot of controls. We have SharePoint, Excel. We can connect SQL. So I'll be showing you from the dataverse. I'll search for work queue items. So I'll just have the work queue. Okay, I think it is not. Okay, now it is currently adding. See, see, my work queue is being added, but am still not able to see my controls in here. Anyway, I will first set the X and Y coordinates of this gallery, right? So for X, I will just set up as a main container. So main container dot X, simple math, right? And then I'll set the same for Y as main container dot Y, right? And then the width is same main container dot width, and the height is same as main container dot height. Now I think it is clear to you what is the use of the containers here, right? So now this has been set up, but what I can see is, yeah, so this has been set up. Right now I want to show the data. Right, so in order to show the data, I need to use the text controls. Right, so what I'll do is inside my gallery. Okay, what is this? I'll just play this. Anyway, we'll correct this later on. Right, so I'll just click, I'll just move it a bit here, and I'll just use this edit button, and I will insert the text. So basically there are many, if you see, text input. So first is text input. Basically text input is what you input, what you want user to input in your text. Text label is basically to show the user what will be the value. So I'll quickly show you the difference. I'll take a text label, and I will quickly have a text input. Okay, and see, so text label basically is a heading. Text label is basically a heading. So if I say uh, queue item, see why it is showing multiple, I'll tell you that also. Basically text label means a heading, and input means that you are inputting something. Now if I play this app, see, I'll be able to type something here because it's a text input. You are taking input from user, but in the text label you will not be able to type anything. Okay, so I'll close this. Right, and so this is the main difference between a text input and a text label. Right, so I want to show some values. I don't want to take any value, so just decrease this part a bit so that other items I'll be able to see them also. Okay, now gallery has two components. One is the whole gallery. If you see this whole container, this is the gallery container, and one is this small container. Basically this is a template container where you whatever item you show in the first container, it will be visible to all. So let's say that from the queue data, right, from the queue data I want to show the queue names. Right, if you remember the table, if you remember this work queue table, I'll quickly open this for you. So in here we have 5 queues, right, and if you see here I can just type the, so this I have my work queue items, and in label I can set the property this item means the work queue items dot. Now the moment I type dot, it will show me all the columns present in the work queue table. Right, so if I place name, it will show me the name of all the work queue. Right, so if I go into my power apps and I go to stream this, so here it has taken these names. Right, now if I say that I do not want the name, I want dot the inputs. Right, now it has shown me the inputs, and if I say I need the let's say the processing results, it will show me the processing results. Right, so these are the items that it is showing to me. Okay, so now what I want here is I want simply my queue name. Right, so if I go in here and if I go, so this is not a queue name, this is the queue item name. If I go to extreme this, and if I go, now if you see here, you have the work queue name. You see here you have the name of your work queues, right? And yeah, so if I go in here and I type work queue id, right, now that work queue id column is being derived from another table. So I'll just have to type dot and then name. Right, so the moment I type this, it will show me all the names in that work queue. So now if you see, we have name of our queue. Right, I'll just close it. Now we have the name of our queue here. Now in this queue I want to show the input. Now I'll just, what I have to do, I'll just copy this item and place it here, and what I'll say is this item dot name. Right now in this work queue we have these items. Now I'll say that I need the processing results of these columns. Right now I also have the processing results. I can just expand it so that it will be more visible. Right, so this is how you can just see. Now if I want another, let's say that I want the created date, let's say the created on, I have the created on. Now let's say that I want to, okay, I have copied wrong item. Now I'll just click on this and copy. Let's say that I want to have the what is the start time of this item, means the processing start time. I'll have processing start time, and then I will have a processing end time. Okay, processing end time is not there, but I think completed on is there. Right, so if you see we have these. So if you see we are onto something. So we have the queue name, we have the name, we have the processing results, we have the added date. So it is added on 54 and it has start processing on 11:56 and it has completed in 11:56. Although there is a second difference, it is not visible here, but we'll see how can we see that also. This is just a rough idea to show you how can we add data into this gallery items. Right now the best practice is to rename your labels. So I'll just rename this label to LBL, and this is my queue name, right? And this is my LBL dot, sorry, this is the name, or you can call a unique name, and this is the label processing nodes, right? This you can mention as nodes, and this is, I think, the created label, created on, right? And this is the LBL is added, and this is the, sorry, this is not added, this is the start, and this is, you can call it LBL added. Right, now I think you have an idea that what is a label. Basically, if you want to show some data to the user, you can use a label inside a gallery. And why these multiple things are coming is because we have so much rows in our data table or in our gallery or in our dataverse right now. And gallery has, basically, you can call three components. One is this whole gallery, second one is this your control, where whatever you add in above, it will be visible in the all rows, right? So this is second, and the third one is you can add items. If it is a vertical gallery, then you can add it by side. So these are the three main components of a gallery, right? And what is a gallery? Gallery is basically, you can show your data, you can add your table into your gallery. Now making this dynamic, right, these XY coordinates dynamic, I will just do it for these two, and rest I'll recommend you to do it on your own. Right, for this label control, what I'll do is I'll take the X control, right, and this is 40. I'll do is 0. So once it is 0, it will be moved here, right? And the Y control, I will do it 0. It will be moved here, but okay, let's keep it 40 to make it here, or I can make it dynamic also, like the parent dot y and plus 40, like this, right? And then now this one, how can I make this one dynamic with related to this is I'll select the X. Now X is 242. No, this should be label queue name, I think, right? Dot X. Right now the moment I do dot X, X for the queue name is 0, so it is overlapping it. Now what I'll do is plus, right? I'll simply say label dot q name plus the width of that. Let's see, it is being moved to the width. Now what I'll say is you just into 2, right? It is moved more. I'll just say is 1.5, right? So now it is, there is a difference between these two and the difference is of 1.5. So this is how you can make it dynamic. Similarly you can do it for this and all these. You can do it on your own. Right now the next step for this is I want to add some headings, right? So in order to add some headings, so for headers I'll choose button. Don't confuse headers with buttons. Buttons in Power Apps can be used for different things, right? So I'll show you how can we use buttons in place of headers. So first thing what I have done is, of the main container I have removed the border, right? And for this I'll just do one thing. I'll select all of these template and I'll change the y. So what I'll do is I'll just follow the formula, parent dot template height. So moment I choose the parent dot template height, all the controls have been moved to the bottom because I have chosen the y control. Now minus self dot height, right? The moment I choose this the all the controls are being moved to the bottom, right? So what I'll do is I'll just move this template a bit down so that my headers can come here. So right here, now what I need to do is add some headers. So I'll be choosing button. So there are, if you see, there are 3 buttons. This is a icon, this is not a button. One is classic, another one is modern. I'll be choosing modern. There are some controls extra in this button, although there is the difference that I majorly see is the icon. First is this icon and there are some extra properties in the classic one. So you can go through all these. The work of both classic and modern is same. So I'll show you why I have chosen button as a header, right? So what I'll do is, since there are 1 2 3 4 5 6 controls, so I will copy these 6 buttons here, right? And I'll just paste every button to their respective heading. So I'll paste them like this and like this, right? So what I'll be doing is I'll make these buttons relative to each other. Now let's see how can I make it relative. First I'll choose the y coordinate of all to 0 because these are into the main container, right? So if you see, the y of all these buttons are 0, right? Now what I'll do is I'll set the height. I'll set height of all these buttons to same. So I'll choose all and I'll go to height and I will say that parent dot height. So parent is the main container and then into 0.2, it seems big, 0.1. This looks fine. Okay, now I'll also choose the width as same. Let's choose it for now. Let's choose it parent dot width into 0.1, right? For now let's choose this one. Now I need to remove the spaces between all these three. So there can be different methods removing these spaces. What I will choose is, first I will set the x of my first button to 0 and then I'll move to next. And what I'll do is I'll choose the x of this as the first button, which is button canvas 2, right? You can rename this before doing any changes, although you can do it later also. So I'll just rename this button as button q and I'll rename this to button item id, right? And I'll do this to button notes, button added on, button start, and then button end, right? So I'll choose the x coordinate of this as button q right, dot x, which is 0, plus the width of this button q dot width, right. So it will be placed adjacent to this button, right. Similarly for this, I'll choose the x coordinate, right. So I'll choose button item id dot x, right, and then plus button nodes dot width, right. Similarly for this and this, I'll do it for the same. So I've done it for all. The last is left, which is this, and I'll change this to button start, and this also button start. Okay, now all these are changed. Now let's increase the width, adjust the width for all these. Let's see if I do 1.5. Okay, this is good. 1.6, 1.7. Okay, if you see 7 is going far beyond 6.6. Okay, 6.6 is this looks good. Now I'll just name these buttons, right. So name property is the text property. I'll name this to the q name, right. Similarly for this, I'll change the text property to maybe item id, right. And similarly for this, name this to notes. This is my created on, right, and this is my start time, and then next is my end time. So this is my start time, and next is my end time, right. So now this is done. If you see, there is a bit difference that you see. I think this is due to the border. You can also change this. If I go down, if I see border, I'll do it 0, and then okay, there is still a difference. Anyway, now there are more things that we can do with the button so that they will look more like a headings, right. So we have some border, top, right, left, radius. I'll change this to 50, let's say. And if you see, now these looks more like a tab. Now let me just select all, and let me just increase the font size for all. Font size, let's say 20. Is 20 good? Yeah, this is good. Now let's change. Now let's select the icon quickly. See icon, we can also change the size and the color of the icons, right. So I'll quickly choose the item id. Let's choose a circle for item id. For notes, let's choose our document. For created on, let's choose a calendar, right. For start, let's choose the other calendar, and for end also, let's choose the calendar. Yeah. So now if you see, this looks more like a tracker, right. Let me increase the font size for this also. Let's do it 20. Let's see how it looks. Okay, 20 seems a bit larger. Let me do it, maybe 17 will work. Yeah, okay, this is good. Right, now let me move this template to a bit here. Now if you see, our tracker is kind of ready, right. I am able to click these buttons, but nothing is happening. And why is that? Now if you go to the on select property of these buttons, right, so on select is basically false, right. We can change it, and we will change it as we move slowly towards the end of this video, right. So for now, I have shown you that button can be used for different things also, right. Now let me make it a more change the color. Okay, this color is good. Okay, right. So our tracker columns are ready. Now this is done. Let's put a separator between these templates, right. So what I'll do is, for a separator, I can choose a rectangle, right. So this is the rectangle. Why these are so many? Because I have chosen in the template. So what I'll do is I will do it like this. I will choose the width I'll choose as parent dot width. Right now I'll choose the x will always be 0, right, so that it will be moved. See, now I'll choose the height, let's say 2. 2 2 is okay, 3 is also okay. See, 3 is also okay. Now let us choose the y. We can choose a bit down from this control, right? So or I'll just copy this one, and here let me type this. See, +1 -1. Okay, I think this looks fine. Let me move this a bit up. Okay, okay, this is fine. Or let me just remove this. So now this is a separator. Now if you see this, this looks more good. Now see, there is a separator. You can also add a separator here, right? Now since all this is done, what I'll do is if you see, this is coming there, this is coming here, this is coming here, and all these are moving. So what I'll do is I will choose this, and I'll choose the x for this as 0. This is 0. Now for this, what I'll do is the x for this, I'll choose the x for this as button item dot x, right? So now if you see, it is moved here. Similarly for this x, I'll choose. So now if you see, we are just relating each of my items with the buttons, right? So the moment buttons are moved, the controls are moved automatically. So button, I think this is added on dot x, right? And similarly for start and end, I'll do the same. Button end dot x, right? So now it looks more good and more in a better way. Now if you see below, our completed is being hidden. So what we can do for this is, if I go down down down, we have a scroll option available. Let me just check it quickly. See, is there is a show scroll bar, and then we also have an option of show navigation. So if you see, this is also visible. Now there is one more option of so if you see the option in this, overflow is hidden. If I do scroll, now you will be able to see scroll also, right? We can do this for all, but since I know my notes will be much larger, so I have done it for this only. Now let me just change the width of all these, right? So what I'll do is width, uh, I'll do parent dot width into 0.16. See, now this looks more good. Let's do it 1.5, so that there will be a bit difference, right? Okay, this has been done. Now what I'll do is I will add a search button, so that user will able to search the items in this table, right? So for search item, I will add a search box. So in the header container, in my header container, I will add a text input. Sorry, not this one. I will add this text input, right? I will move this to the last, or what you can say is, for this, Width, you can say that parent dot width. No, not width. For height, you can say parent dot height. Sorry, my bad. Parent dot height. So I'll say parent dot height, right? And now the, let's say the y as 0, right? Now I want to put this at the last, right? At the last. So what I'll do is, first of all, I'll change the width to into 0.2, right? zero point 0.3. Okay, zero point 0.3 is good. Now I'll move it to the last. So what I'll do is I'll choose x. I'll choose x as parent dot width, right? And then I will choose, I think, minus uh, self dot width. Right now, if you see, it is moved to the last automatically. I'll change the border a bit so that, see, now it looks better. I'll just increase the width. See, let's do it 3.5. Okay, now let's inside this, where is this? I'll name this to text. I'll name this to SEARCH search box, and this to our separator. Okay, in search box, inside the search box, I'll add a search icon, right? So this is my search icon, so I'll add it here. I'll not be changing the properties of this. You can do this on your own. Display mode, I'll do it to view, right? So now if you see, my tracker is looking nice. Okay, now what I'll do is, whatever user types into this, it should search my item ID and in my notes, right? So for that, I will add a simple formula. Let me just grab it quickly. Right, so now for trigger output, I can choose uh, whether a focus out or key press, right? So I'll choose just delete. So whenever some user types into it and there is some delay, the filter it automatically works. Now in the items, what I'll write is filter, right? So filter will ask for the source. Where do you want to filter this? So the source is, you can write q item gallery, this gallery, all items in this gallery, or you can directly give the table, right? So this is the table that I have given. Now here I will write logical text test. I can write multiple tests, right? So what test I will write is, I will write the value of that search box, whatever the value in that search box is. So I'll write search box dot value, right? And then in, now I want to search this value only into my name column. So I'll choose name and I'll just close this. And when I play this and I'll type an EE, right? So if you see, all the names with Neeraj are now filtered, right? I can add multiple conditions, right? I'll add one more condition, search box dot value, and in I'll add processing results, that means in my notes column. So now if I click this and save, and I'll just write 1001. Now if you see, all with 1001 are coming. I'll choose 2, all with 2 are coming. I'll choose 3, I'll choose 4, I'll choose 5, I'll choose 6, right? So this is how it is coming, right? So this is how we can use filter. We can use, so let's say that we have more filters. I have one more search box where I have applied filter in the queue name, right? So I can write different results, right? And I'll choose, I'll write one more is, if the search box is blank, then it should show all the values, right? So this is how, right? So I'll remove this and all values will be shown, right? So this is how filter work. This is very basic thing, since this video is mostly for beginners. So this is how the filter will work. Now for this text box, I'll just place a search holder text like search item ID here, or you can just like this. Okay, so this is how this will look. If you want to increase the font size, you can just type it here, right? Okay, so this is how your search or your filter works in Power Apps. So now if you remember, we also have a column in our this work queue as a status reason, but a status reason is not being mentioned here. So what I'll do is I'll change this first column to the status reason. I have also renamed this to status instead of the queue name, right? So I'll change this to status. Okay, now where will I put my queue? So what I'll do is I will place my queue in a drop down so that any person select the value from that drop down, all the values from that particular queue will be visible. So in order to do that, I'll add a drop down on my header container. So I'll search for a drop down, right? So it currently has some sample values. You can choose your x and y as per your convenience. I'll not be moving on to x and y component. What I'll do is I'll choose the value in this drop down from the queue name. So what I'll do is if you remember, my queue name was in the queue work queue id dot name. So what I'll do is I'll choose distinct value, right? The source is of course work queue items is my source, and then work queue id and dot name, right? So moment I close this, I have all my queue items. So I'll press alt, and if you see, I have all my 5 queues. Now I want to apply a filter as per this drop down. So what I'll do is, since I already have one filter here, so I'll just add a comma, right? And what I'll do is I will choose my column, which is work queue id dot name, right? And then this equals my drop down, my value in my drop down. So my drop down name is drop down 4 dot selected dot value, right? I'll just rename this drop down to work queue drop down. Okay, and I'll just rename this to search icon. It's always a best practice to rename your queues, right? So if I go and search it here, gmx queue, and if I search with name, so only this will be visible. Or if I search with the description, des, all will be visible. If I search with timeout, okay, spelling is wrong, so timeout will be visible. So this is how we can choose. And if I choose a different queue, let's say ServiceNow queue, all items, there's no item for timeout, so now all items from my ServiceNow queue is visible. So this is how we can apply multiple filters. Now I can also choose a date filter on my date. So how will I do that? I will first add a date picker, right? So I'll move this a bit here, and in the my header container I will add a date picker, right? So yeah, okay. So I will apply this date picker filter on my created date only, and it's homework for you that you can apply it on start and end also. Now what I'll do is I'll change the default date to blank, right? And then there are very much properties for this. You can play with these properties. I'll just apply a filter. Now since this is a different column, so I'll just go with the comma. Now if the value in that date picker is blank, so date picker 1 dot selected date, okay, and then I will use a or, right? And then I'll choose created on is greater than equal to in my date picker dot selected date. Okay, so what I said is the value which is selected in my date picker, it should filter the items with the date that is selected in my date picker. It should be greater or equal, or I can say that okay, it can also pick created on date with less than or equals to date picker dot selected date. Okay, that's it. And let's search for this. uh Let us go with the 13. Okay, so it has filtered only the 13th day item. If I go with 14, okay, it is not filtering. Let me go with the 12. Okay, I think date create. Okay, I have to like and I think now if I play see now I go with 13th. No. Okay, so I think I have chosen wrong filter. I have just added a formula to add the date. So what it will do is, once I have a date selected in my date picker, let's say 14, so it will search in the 14, right, and at the end of 14, right. So I have added one day. Whatever I have selected, it will just add one day and search in that. So this is how, if I select 40, let's say I select 12, there are no items added on 12. If I select 13, it will select the items only from the 13. So this is how you can add a filter on your selected date. So now there is one last thing that we'll be doing in this video, is changing the color of these statuses dynamically, right? So this the value in this status is, if you see, the text is a status reason, and this status reason is a choice column. So what I'll do is I'll go to, so there are two properties for color. One is fill is basically it will fill whole of the column, and then there is one property called color. See, currently it is color dot black. So what I'll do is I will apply a if condition. Now let's say if I'll say this item dot this this item dot status reason is equals to work queue. I need to search with the status reason. See, this is status reason dot, let's say, generic exception. Then color should be color dot, let's say, for generic exception, let's put the color dot red, right? Or else color dot let's say black, right? Let's just close it. And if you see the color, now it is being changed. Now in place of else condition, what I'll do is I will just paste, copy this, and I will paste it here, and I will say that if it is business exception, then color should be color dot let's say, you can choose any color, let's say brown. And then if else, if a status this is a dead letter, I'll not choose dead letter, is this, then color dot yellow. Okay, there is some mistake. If okay, I have not paste this here, status reason this, and then here this. Okay, if I play it now, you see the IT exception is coming as yellow. I'll just remove the yellow because it is not very much visible, change this to blue, and then I'll copy this whole expression and paste it again, and in place of generic exception I'll write dot processed. If it is processed, then the color should be green, let's say. And if business exception we have already given, so I'll say if this is dot processing timeout, then the color should be color dot, let's say, violet. And if IT exception we have already given, so let's say if it is processing, the color should be, let's say, okay, blue. Or else if nothing matches, then color should be black. Right, now I'll play this. See, for generic exception the color is red. I'll move this filter. Okay, okay, I'll just click OK. And if you see now, wherever it is processed it is blue, and wherever it is business exception is this, and see the color is changing. Now the last thing is I'll add a reset button so that the date can be resetted. Right, so I'll choose an icon here, choose a reset icon. Right, so I'll choose reset icon here, and what I'll do is on select I'll choose a simple reset, and then control is drop down, sorry, date picker 1. Okay, and I'll play it here. If I click this, see, all my items are visible from that particular queue, no matter what the date is. Okay, so this is it. I'll just rename my icon. There's one more thing that we can do is whenever this is selected, I'll go to on select. Right, what I can say is I can notify user that select a date comma notification dot information. Right, now if I select a date, and okay, see, now on select is being done. Now I'll reset it. Right, so this is how we can create a tracker using a Dataverse table. Right, so there is much more onto this video. I'll be adding more access related issue that only uh, person A can select the queue or person B can select the queue. So this is a starting of the Power App. Hope you like this video. If you like this video, like, share, and comment. Let me know what more I can do with my Power App. Till then, bye. Thank you for watching. Happy automation.